They called you lazy. They called you inconsistent. They said you have no discipline, no drive, no focus. And every time they said it, a piece of you believed them. Because how could you not, when you spent your life trying to fit into systems that punish difference, when you've been told that productivity equals worth, and worth equals conformity. You tried to sit still when your mind wanted to run. You tried to follow their rules while your brain was busy building universes. You tried to live inside lines that were never drawn for you. They mistook your exhaustion for apathy. They mistook your silence for disinterest. They mistook your chaos for failure. But deep down you knew, you felt it. Something about that label was wrong. You weren't lazy. You were misunderstood. You see, the ADHD mind was never designed for the ordinary. It was built for intensity. You don't seek comfort, you seek fire. You don't crave routine. You crave meaning. When something captures your attention, you disappear into it completely. You don't just focus. You merge. Hours vanish. The world fades. You become one with your purpose. That's not laziness. That's hyperfocus. That's genius in motion. But they never told you that. They only saw the days you couldn't move. The moments when your energy collapsed. The times when your mind, once blazing, suddenly shut down. They didn't understand that the same brain that burns bright also burns out. They didn't understand that you can't run a race with no finish line. They didn't understand that your brain doesn't run on willpower. It runs on passion. And so you started believing you were broken. You started confusing boredom with failure. You started mistaking fatigue for flaws. But here's the truth. The truth they never taught you. You're not broken. You're brilliantly wired. You think faster, feel deeper, imagine more vividly. Your attention doesn't scatter. It searches, it scans the world for stimulation, for challenge, for life. And when it doesn't find it, it doesn't shut down because it's lazy. It shuts down because it's starving. That's the paradox of the ADHD mind. Too powerful to be ordinary, too curious to stay still, too alive to live halfway. So they called you lazy, because they couldn't comprehend you. Because you refused to worship their god of routine. Because you couldn't pretend to be content with mediocrity. They don't see that your distraction is actually divine curiosity. That your inconsistency is adaptability. That your impatience is urgency for meaning. You don't fail because you lack discipline. You fail because you're trying to live like everyone else in a world that wasn't built for your mind. The ADHD brain is a wildfire. It needs direction, not suppression. It needs fuel, not judgment. It needs purpose, not punishment. When your environment inspires you, you come alive. When your mission feels real, you become unstoppable. So no, you were never lazy. You were never weak. You were wired for something extraordinary. Your restlessness is not rebellion. It's your soul screaming, I was made for more. And the moment you stop apologizing for your nature, the world around you will finally have to reckon with it. Because you're not here to fit into systems, you're here to rewrite them. You are not lazy. You are not unfocused. You are an ADHD genius in disguise. And this is where your story begins. Here's the revelation. The world has been measuring you with the wrong scale. They've been judging the speed of your lightning by the rules of candlelight. They mistake your silence for emptiness, when in truth it's the calm before creation. You were never meant to move at their pace. You were designed to move worlds. Your mind doesn't operate in straight lines. It dances in constellations. You don't think step by step. You think in leaps. Where others see fragments, you see patterns. Where others get lost in details, you see connections. That's sign number one. Your brain works like a web, not a line. It leaps, links and loops. 1,000 thoughts at once, each one sparking another, each one weaving meaning out of chaos. That's not distraction. That's divergent intelligence. It's the ability to see what others miss. It's the reason you make creative leaps that others spend decades trying to understand. You don't need to focus on everything. You only need to focus on the right thing. And when you do, your mind becomes unstoppable. Sign number 2. You feel deeply, even when you don't show it. Emotions don't just touch you, they consume you. You feel everything, joy like sunlight, pain like fire. And because it's so intense, you've learned to build walls to protect your sensitivity from the noise of the world. People call you dramatic, reactive, unstable. But the truth is you are awake. You are tuned to frequencies others can't hear. Your empathy, your intuition, your sensitivity, those aren't flaws. They are superpowers, because deep feeling fuels deep understanding, and deep understanding creates deep art, deep love, deep meaning. That's why you can connect with people so profoundly, why your words heal, why your presence transforms. You don't just see others, you feel them. You don't just listen, you absorb. Sign number 3. You thrive in chaos. Most people crumble under pressure. You come alive. Deadline, urgency, adrenaline. These are not your enemies, they are your switches, the triggers that activate your focus. Your brain is wired for intensity. When the stakes rise, so does your clarity. That's why you do your best work at the last moment, not because you're lazy, but because urgency ignites your dopamine engine. You were built to perform in storms, and when the world trembles, you move like lightning. But here's the secret. You don't need to wait for chaos. You can create controlled pressure. You can design urgency into your life timers, challenges, micro-deadline structures that mimic the thrill of a deadline without the destruction of burnout. That's how you turn chaos into command. Sign number 4. You crave passion, not obligation. You cannot fake interest. Your brain rejects the meaningless. When something feels empty, your energy vanishes. But when something lights your fire, you enter a state that defies logic. A hyperfocus so deep that hours feel like seconds. That's not inconsistency. That's alignment. Your mind is telling you what matters. It's not asking for more discipline, it's asking for direction. You were never designed for tasks without soul. You were built for missions that matter. That's why when you finally find your why, you move faster than anyone else. You don't just work. You create. You don't just think. You build. You don't just exist. You expand. Sign number 5. You don't fit into systems because you're meant to redesign them. The ADHD genius is not a follower, they are a founder. You question everything not to rebel but to refine. You see cracks in tradition, flaws in routine, gaps in logic. Your curiosity breaks boundaries others don't even notice. That's why classrooms bored you. That's why corporate cubicles suffocated you. You weren't meant to obey, you were meant to invent. When the world says this is how it's done, you ask, but what if it could be better? That's not defiance. That's innovation. These are the first signs of your hidden power. The proof that your laziness was never real. You weren't avoiding life. You were avoiding limitations. You weren't unmotivated. You were unmatched. Because when your soul finds its spark, nothing can stop you. Not distraction. Not doubt. Not fear. And as you begin to understand this, you feel something shift inside you, a quiet, powerful realization. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to free yourself. Because the ADHD genius isn't made by structure, they are born from freedom. Freedom to move, to think, to feel, to create. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out in brilliance, in motion, in light. Now comes the part they never tell you. The truth hidden behind the brilliance. Because for every burst of light, there is darkness. For every moment of fire, there is exhaustion. And the ADHD genius walks that razor's edge between creation and collapse. You've lived this truth. The trap is subtle, seductive, and it wears many faces. It begins with guilt. You wake up with plans. You dream of revolutions. But then the weight hits. The fog. The noise, the paralysis. Your thoughts scatter like birds. Your body slows and suddenly you feel worthless for doing nothing. You don't just fail to act. You hate yourself for it. You replay every moment in your head, every promise you broke to yourself, every goal that slipped through your finger, and yet when the energy returns you rise again, bursting forward with unstoppable momentum, promising yourself that this time it will be different. But it's not, is it? Because the fire always burns out. That's the trap. The endless pendulum of extremes. Highs that feel like superhuman creation, and lows that feel like drowning in your own mind. You think something's wrong with you. You call it inconsistency, irresponsibility, weakness. But here's the truth, none of that is true. You don't lack willpower. You lack regulation. Your brain doesn't turn off, it overheats. You don't lose motivation. Your mind runs out of dopamine fuel, and yet instead of compassion, the world gives you shame. Instead of understanding, it gives you judgment. So you wear the mask of the hard-working faker, of the smiling warrior, of the one who keeps saying, I'm fine, but you're not fine. You're exhausted, not from laziness but from fighting yourself every single day. You fight to sit still. You fight to focus. You fight to act normal. And that war within you, that endless self-correction, it drains your soul faster than failure ever could. But here's the truth most never realize. The ADHD genius doesn't thrive on control, they thrive on connection. You need things to feel alive, to feel meaningful, to feel real. When life becomes mechanical, you disconnect. And when you disconnect, you collapse. You've been trying to discipline yourself into focus. But discipline without alignment is destruction. You don't need to fight harder. You need to feel deeper, because every time you think you're lazy, it's not laziness you're feeling. It's disinterest. It's your soul's way of saying, this isn't what I was born to do. You don't procrastinate because you fear failure. You procrastinate because you crave passion, because your brain refuses to waste energy on what doesn't ignite it. You've been forcing your mind to obey a world that rewards routine. But your mind wasn't made for repetition. It was made for reinvention. You were never meant to sit quietly in the classroom. You were meant to redesign it. You were never meant to follow orders. You were meant to question them and elevate them. And that's why this truth hits so hard. You've been punished for the very traits that make you powerful. Curiosity, emotion, intensity, imagination. They called you lazy because you couldn't fit their mold. But maybe the mold was never worthy of your shape. The truth is, you were never supposed to be consistent. You were supposed to be creative. You were never meant to follow paths. You were meant to forge them. You were never meant to obey systems. You were meant to build better ones. That's why your restlessness hurts so much. It's the fire inside you begging for an outlet. The pain you feel isn't failure, it's untapped potential. It's the ache of brilliance without direction. And the moment you see that, really see it, you stop blaming yourself. You start building yourself. You stop asking what's wrong with me. You start asking what is my gift trying to tell me. Because the truth is this. You were never lazy. You were waiting for something worth your energy. And once you find it, your mind, your focus, your intensity, they all awaken like gods long asleep. So stop fighting your rhythm. Stop forcing your mind to crawl when it was built to soar. You don't need to slow down. You just need to aim better. The trap was believing that your chaos made you broken. The truth is, your chaos is the birthplace of your genius. Here is where everything changes. The storm no longer feels like punishment. It begins to feel like power. You stop running from your mind. You start walking with it. Because the awakening doesn't come from controlling your chaos. It comes from understanding it. You realize that your ADHD was never meant to be silenced. It was meant to be steered. And the very traits you once cursed are now the keys to your brilliance. You start seeing the patterns, The truth behind the 9 signs of your genius. Sign 6. You can hyperfocus like a laser when it matters. When something captures your passion, you don't just concentrate, you disappear into it. The world fades, time dissolves. You enter a realm of pure creation. Others call it obsession. You call it oneness. Because when you find meaning, you don't stop. You dive deeper. You build faster. You execute harder. This is your natural state. Flow born of fascination. And that's when it hits you. Your problem was never focus. It was direction. You were never distracted. You were uninterested. And when you find your interest, you become unstoppable. So you stop chasing balance. You chase alignment. You let your intensity serve your purpose instead of sabotaging it. Sign 7. You see possibilities where others see problems. You were never content with what exists. You've always been obsessed with what could exist. That's not chaos. That's vision. The ADHD mind is a machine of innovation. It doesn't settle. It doesn't rest. It sees 10 paths in one moment, 10 solutions in one thought. You don't fit in with what is, because you were born to create what's next. The world calls it restlessness, but that's just your creative engine asking what if. And when you finally stop suppressing that question, you stop surviving. You start inventing. You realize that your too many ideas are not distractions. They're directions, each one a spark, and you are the storm that carries them. Sign 8. You feel time differently. You've always been late, haven't you? Not because you don't care, but because time doesn't move the same way for you. For others, time is linear. For you, it's liquid. You don't live by hours, you live by moments. You enter hyperfocus and the clock vanishes. You drift into daydreams and minutes stretch into miles. You live between seconds and eternities. That's not irresponsibility. That's immersion. When you care, you lose yourself in creation. When you don't, you lose yourself in thought. Time bends for those who live fully, and you, more than most, live completely. You feel every minute like fire, because your mind refuses to live on autopilot. It demands depth in everything. That's not failure. That's awareness. Sign 9. You are not driven by rules. You are driven by meaning. You can't fake your energy. You can't fake your purpose. When your heart's not in it, your fire dies. When your heart is in it, you burn through walls. You are not powered by obligation. You are powered by emotion. And that emotion, that raw, untamed, beautiful energy, is what gives you unmatched drive. When something matters to you, you don't need reminders. You don't need schedules. You don't need permission. You just move. Because when purpose meets passion, the ADHD genius becomes limitless.
And so, the awakening begins. You start designing your life around your brain, not theirs. You build systems that fuel your energy instead of draining it. You stop trying to live in control, you start living in command. You learn how to work with your fire, short bursts, powerful focus, meaningful breaks. You learn that consistency doesn't mean every day looks the same, it means you keep coming back to your mission, no matter how the storm rages. You build routines, not as prisons, but as paths for your power. You start to see that the ADHD brain isn't wild, it's wired for wonder. It only misfires when it's fed the wrong life. You stop punishing yourself for being different. You start training your difference to make a difference. And for the first time in your life, you feel peace, not the quiet kind, but the kind that comes when chaos and clarity shake hands. You finally understand that your mind isn't against you. It was waiting for you to understand it. Waiting for you to command it. And now you do. You rise each morning with direction. You face each challenge with power. You live each day with meaning. Not because your ADHD disappeared, but because you integrated it. It's no longer your curse. It's your code. It's no longer your burden. It's your blueprint. You've turned your storm into structure. Your chaos into craft. Your weakness into weapon. You are no longer chasing focus. You are focus when it's aligned, when it's ignited, when it's yours. And now, the storm quiets, not because it's over, but because you are in control of it. This is the rebirth. The moment you stop surviving your mind and start leading it. Because genius was never meant to be calm, it was meant to be commanded. You no longer see ADHD as something to overcome. You see it for what it truly is, a force, wild, beautiful, unpredictable, that can build empires when it finds a purpose strong enough to hold it. You've walked through misunderstanding. You've peeled away shame. You've seen the truth, the trap, the awakening. And now, you own it. Because mastery isn't about suppressing your nature. It's about shaping it. It's about finding the rhythm that belongs to you, not to them. The world says, be consistent. You say, be intentional. The world says, slow down. You say, no, aim better. You've learned that your fire burns out only when you light things that do not deserve your flame. You've learned that distraction isn't disobedience, it's redirection. That what they call inconsistency is actually your intuition.
And now you build your life around that truth. You wake up and choose your chaos. You create systems that serve you, not suffocate you. Timers, movement, music. You build rituals that pull your mind into flow, not through force but through rhythm. You stop asking your brain to be like theirs. You teach it to be the best version of itself. And when you fall because you will, you no longer spiral into shame. You smile, you breathe, you restart, because mastery is not perfection. It's resilience. It's falling 10 times and still rising 11. With more wisdom, more control, more focus each time. You've turned your emotion into firepower, your curiosity into innovation, your restlessness into relentless creation, and your mistakes, they've become your map. Because every time you got lost, you discovered another piece of your brilliance. Every time you failed to fit in, you learned how to stand out. Every time you were called too much, you realized you were exactly enough. Now the same energy that once scattered you has become the current that carries you forward. The same passion that once burned you out has become the light that guides your path. The same mind that once felt like chaos has become a compass of creation. You no longer apologize for your wiring. You celebrate it. You no longer hide your speed. You harness it. You no longer resist your storms. You ride them, because you understand now greatness is not born in order. It's born in turbulence. And you were built for turbulence. You were born to think faster, feel deeper, dream wilder. You were born to break systems, not to bow to them. You were born to build what doesn't exist yet. So now when they call you lazy, you don't explain yourself. You show them. You show them with the work you create, with the fire you ignite, with the impact you leave. You no longer need validation. You have vision. You no longer seek approval. You seek alignment. You've realized that genius is not neat. It's messy, raw, unpredictable and holy, because genius isn't the absence of chaos, it's the mastery of it. And that is who you are now, a master of motion, a commander of storms, a creator of meaning, a builder of light. Your ADHD didn't destroy you, it defined you. It gave you edges sharp enough to carve reality itself. It gave you intensity powerful enough to rewrite your destiny. The world may still not understand you. That's fine. It doesn't have to, because the greatest minds were never understood in their time. They were misunderstood, misjudged, mislabeled until their light became too bright to ignore. And that's you, a light too bright to label, a fire too fierce to contain, a storm too intelligent to silence. You are not lazy. You are lightning waiting for a conductor. You are not distracted. You are a dreamer refining direction. You are not broken. You are becoming. Your ADHD is not the reason you fail. It's the reason you can't settle. It's the reason you demand meaning, depth, truth. It's the reason you can turn pain into performance. You are the proof that chaos can create masterpieces, that storms can build empires, that minds like yours are not curses. They are creation in motion. So now, rise not to fight your mind, but to fuse with it. Rise not to prove your worth, but to live it. Rise not to calm the storm, but to become the calm within it. Because genius isn't in your control, it's in your command. You are not lazy. You are lightning with purpose. You are fire with focus. You are an ADHD genius, and your time has come.